welcome you to our Entwine Exclusive. My name is Ariel Sokoloff, and I am the Deputy Director of Engagement at JDC Entwine. For those of you who might not know us yet, Entwine is the young adult platform of the Joint Distribution Committee, or JDC, which is the world's leading Jewish humanitarian organization operating in over 70 countries worldwide. The Entwine Exclusive is a program we launched at the start of the pandemic, and it's designed to give people a behind-the-scenes look at how JDC, our partners, and program participants are responding to current events and taking action to lead their communities. So a couple of housekeeping tips as you come in. Miriam is on here monitoring our chat. Feel free to post any questions you might have for our panelists throughout our conversation. We should have some time to get to some questions at the end. And also note that there's an option for closed captions. You can turn this on or off by clicking the live transcript button on your Zoom panel. But before we get to the content, I want to share that I personally have been feeling incredibly overwhelmed by the news coming out of India and Ethiopia and Israel and just the whole world at the moment. And wanted to share a little bit of Jewish wisdom that grounds me during these challenging times. So in a second, you'll see in the chat two traditional Jewish texts. And in these texts, it says that Adam and Eve could see the whole world. They had an awareness of the whole world and they cared for the whole world. And these are commentary. These are legends that kind of imagine that they were capable of this empathy for everything they were experiencing. And if you think about it, this is an immense responsibility for someone to carry on their shoulders, not only having an awareness of everything happening, but having this empathy and caring for every individual. And at times like these, when the news is particularly challenging, and especially at a time when we're so interconnected, the weight of this awareness can be incredibly overwhelming. I'm feeling it. I'm sure many of you are feeling this as well. And what grounds me are the personal connections and the one-on-one relationships, and really bringing to light the human stories behind the statistics and behind the news articles we're seeing about all of these topics. So when we were working on the content for this particular Entwine Exclusive, there were a ton of things we could talk about when it comes to Ethiopia. The violence in the Tigray region, the impact of COVID-19, the locust infestation and famine. And this is just on top of the poverty and the other challenges that are regularly in the country and that JDC had already been working to address even before this really challenging year. So for this conversation, instead of having awareness of everything, which can be a lot, we decided to zoom in on women in rural Ethiopia who are being impacted by all of these things that I mentioned, and explore their stories in the context of what we're hearing in the news and in the context of JDC's work. So with that, I'm thrilled to have with us today Fagekta Lama Kabret, the JDC Country Director for Ethiopia, and Leora Wine, Program Manager at JDC Grid, the department that does JDC's international development work. And our conversation is going to be moderated by Sarah Tagger. Sarah is Entwine's Ralph I. Goldman Fellow. She is working with JDC this year, supporting different departments throughout her fellowship, and she is currently working with the team in Ethiopia. So Sarah, I will turn it over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ariel. I'm so excited to be here with all of you today and really help us be able to take this amazing deep dive into the work that we're doing in Ethiopia. So as Ariel said, my name is Sarah Tagger and I'm the RIG Fellow for this year. I'm really, really thrilled to be able to be working with the GRID team in our Ethiopia work. Right now I'm working in particular, which you might hear a little bit about later, on a locust initiative response project. And we're working on some different angles towards dealing with the locust infestation problems in Ethiopia. Ethiopia and in sub-Saharan Africa, with a lens now looking towards women's economic empowerment as a part of that. So really excited to be exploring that as well as other projects that are happening in the region. But I'd love to have our panelists introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about our work. So why don't we start with you, Fagekta, and hear from you about what you're doing for GRID.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm also very excited to be here. My name is Fagekta Lema, and I am the country director of JDC Ethiopia office. I joined JDC back in October 2016, and it's been an amazing journey. We have done a lot of projects in health, education, and agriculture sector, and I oversee all the programs and all the administrative work in Ethiopia.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And Leora, if you could go ahead and introduce yourself.
Excellent. And Fagekta is a rock star. You guys should know that. So hi, my name is Leora Wine. I'm originally from West Hartford, Connecticut. I've been living in Israel for the past 15 years. I am the program manager of JDC's disaster response and international development work. And I oversee work that we do in terms of responding to disasters, including what's going on in India right now, as well as our women's economic development work that we'll talk a little bit more about later.
Wonderful. Thank you. So really excited to hear from you both throughout the duration of this conversation, but hoping for a moment we can zoom out a little bit. So we talked a little bit about JDC and the role that the organization plays on the global stage, and we talked a little bit about GRID and what the international development lens means. But Leora, maybe you can give us from kind of a bird's eye perspective and a lens of why JDC approaches this kind of work, and then funneling that a little bit more specifically into why GRID approaches this kind of work, and what your experience and your role has been with that.
Sure. Okay. So the work that we do at GRID is really, it's in line with the UN Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. These are 17 goals, and we really focus, I would say, on three main ones. No poverty, good health and well-being, and gender equality. And those issues really, when we think about our work, we always have those in mind. Now, how we do it is by working with local partners. So this past year has really underscored the importance of having a local response. Our partnerships in the field allow us to respond to changing needs quickly and effectively. And then I guess the third point that I'll make right now is really highlighting the word sustainability. Our interventions and the programs are designed to create a ripple effect that will continue long after JDC is involved.
Amazing. Thank you. And Fagekta, maybe you can give us a little bit of insight. So now that we have, this overarching strategy and goals that help us really understand how GRID functions as an entity, why Ethiopia? What's going on in Ethiopia, and why Ethiopia in particular, and how are we really mapping and understanding the needs of the region in order to fulfill some of these different areas?
Ethiopia has a long standing history with Israel. We know there was a huge Ethiopian community, Israeli community here in Ethiopia that have now largely migrated to Israel. But because of that connection between this community that was here for many years in Ethiopia, and JDC came in to assist that community, saw the need on the ground, and decided to stay and do other development work in Ethiopia. And that's why Ethiopia, because of the long-term relationship and history we have, these two countries have. And the way we design programs is we do it in consultation with the community. Mostly we also hire external professionals to do analysis, do a study. But on top of that, we go to the ground and actually meet with people that are in these communities and discuss with them to really identify their need and what the gaps are on the ground. And we also do like a stakeholder mapping, and we try to identify all the key players in the particular space. If it's health, the Ministry of Health, the regional, up to the lowest level of government, and also other NGOs that are acting in this particular sector. So we kind of do like all round kind of mapping and identifying, and really to get to the core of what are the challenges, what are the gaps and the needs on the ground. So that's how we design, and we design it together with the community. We would bring in ideas, and we would also listen to their ideas. Their ideas and their opinions are valued, And we really work on the design of the program together. One, it will help us to get acceptance. Two, it will make it more successful because they are part of it from the beginning. And three, we get a lot of support, and it's easier to make it sustainable. When we phase out of the project, it will be easier for the local government organ to carry it on, or even for the local community to continue doing what we have introduced together. So that's how we design programs and implement them in Ethiopia.
Right. It's amazing because it's almost this perfect marriage between, we have these goals and this vision of how the world can be a better place through this type of work, and we match it with the UN, and we really think critically about what this could look like, and then put it into practice in order with what the needs of the people on the ground really are, and what people are looking for, and the type of help that would be meaningful to them, and building those relationships to really develop that. So it's amazing to see it in action. Absolutely. So thank you both so much for this incredible context and helping us really garner a strong understanding of what this work looks like and what this work looks like with specific reference to Ethiopia. But now, as Ariel mentioned, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into our specific focus for the day, which is women. A very fascinating topic in its own right of really particularized things that we can look at and we can really think about how we can engage better with, and projects that we can all partake in. And so we're actually going to start with a little bit of audience engagement and ask you all, what do you think are some of the core challenges or kind of things happening on the ground for Ethiopian women that are affecting daily lives there for rural Ethiopian women? So take a moment, put your vote in, and we're going to explore some of these areas a little bit further. How we doing, Ariel? Oh, amazing. So yeah, I mean, it's evident that we're looking at these different areas, but when we put them all together, it's really clear for us to be able to see, and it seems that most of you agree that overarchingly, there's a lot of different angles for us to look at, and that all of the above is really accurate in describing the situation. But now that we know a little bit about GRID and Ethiopia and the work that's being done there, we can really find out what we're doing in particular to help address some of these challenges. So maybe Leora, I'll start with you and turn it back over to you. So we have this, zoomed out picture, now this zoomed in picture. What does JDC's response look like on the ground? Maybe you can share with us an example of project that we're working on and give everyone an idea of the tangible impact of that work.
Excellent. So one of the projects that I would say is the newest, most up and coming project that we're doing with women is something called Imagine More. Now, if you recall that I mentioned before in terms of the SDGs, when we're talking about no poverty, good health, and gender equality, I can show you kind of what a typical scene would look like. If you were to be driving down the countryside and looking out your window, you may see a scene that has a woman cooking on the side of the road or in her village. That's something like this. Now, if you look at this picture for a minute, just think to yourself, what do you see? Or what do you see under what you see? Meaning, I see a woman who is bending over, carrying a child on her back, breaking bread on a traditional stove that uses wood for fuel. Now, not only is this literally backbreaking, but both woman and child are inhaling smoke in the process. So JDC looked at this issue, right? This is something that is affecting people's lives and their children's lives, of bending over, cooking all day, every day like this, inhaling smoke. What can we do about it? Going back to what Forgetta said, we're looking at asking people on the ground, is this an issue? And what ideas do you have to help solve it? We hooked up with a local NGO who showed us a solution that would speak to this problem. It was one using clean cooking stoves. So now, instead of a woman cooking like this, she could cook like, drum roll, Ariel, this. This is a woman cooking on a clean cooking stove. Now, a clean cook stove is this red stove that uses fuel out of biofuel pellets. These are, instead of using wood, these are using fuel based off of bio waste. In this case, we're looking at coffee husks. So you take discarded coffee husks and you use them to fuel the stove. It doesn't have any smoke. That is actually cheaper than buying the wood, and they can continue to cook in this fashion. We're developing this program, as I said before, with a local NGO. We're engaging also Israeli expertise in terms of working with women to build out businesses that use these stoves, so not only for home use, but also for business use, and looking at an alternative that can, again, be sustainable long after we're in the picture.
Right. So what does this mean for women? I mean, what kind of tangible impact can this have on their daily lives? And, you know, if the vision of this project were to ride out to its full capacity, what could that actually change on the ground in Ethiopia for rural women?
First of all, it gives them better health. They're not breathing this in. Women that not only are outside, but also that are in their huts that have more enclosed spaces, it's allowing them to breathe more freely, and for their families to breathe more freely. It's cheaper for them, so they buy these pellets, so they're saving on costs. And it is also, the pellets burn for longer, so it's giving them more time to do other things, to focus on their children, to focus on other issues that they have going on in the house. And also for the women that we're helping in terms of building out businesses, it's an income generating model that they're then able to make more money. So they're not necessarily, they're not only cooking for themselves, but they can cook for others. If they're making coffee, it's not only for their family, but doing it for others in a way, and also bringing people together. So it's really kind of has, you can zoom in on the woman and also see how she really is a catalyst for then looking into the entire community.
Right. She almost serves as that spearhead of this new kind of wave of change in the country, and being able to kind of repurpose time and repurpose energy. And also, it sounds like it's a very environmentally friendly option, and kind of has a shift in that way as well. I mean, you mentioned no smoke, and, you know, it's amazing to see how one project like this, which might seem like something that's not as, you know, overarchingly revolutionary, can actually have such a massive intangible impact. So I know we're going a little bit off the cuff here, but, you know, I'm so curious about this particular project. What would it take to see it to fruition? What are the next steps that need to happen and really support it for it to grow into what it could be?
So the way this project has started is, first of all, we're introducing this new innovative technology, right? And so that's working with women cooperatives. And Figeka can also speak more about kind of the use of cooperatives and the way in which we work with them. But they're really they're our eyes and ears on the ground. And so we're working with them, and then they're working with the different women who are around them to introduce, what does this look like to demonstrate it, that they can learn about it, that they can then sell it to other women, and then building the fuel and selling the fuel pellets as well. We're creating the market linkage to be able to have a woman buy the stove, buy the pellets from a woman down the street who has a little kiosk and is selling the pellets, and then creating, for if it's women who are living on the road going between big cities, having a stall that sells coffee and tea or other small snacks that you can cook off of it, and start to be able to really build up businesses that we're also helping with some of the business training with it. So it's really working with women through their cooperatives, so that for the cooperatives to then take it over and to continue to help other women.
Right. So it creates this amazing feedback loop of at each level of it, and with each component of it feeding into one another. There's so many different aspects of opportunity that really emerge from a project like this. That's amazing. Wow. So Figeka, I'll turn it over to you now. I know that we have some incredible other projects that are being worked on every day within Ethiopia, and I'd love to hear a little bit about Tove and some of the initiatives related to that.
Okay, so regarding Tove, which is Tukulo Loan Ventures, or the agriculture program that we launched back in 2018, January 2018. And in this program, our target is to reach 5,000 farmers by creating access to technology, access to finance, and access to market for them. So when we did the community discussions, we learned that there was a huge gap in accessing loan for farmers, because banks, consider them as a risk, and they will not give them the loan that they need, so they can be able to purchase technologies, just basic technologies as tractors, or even hybrid seeds in order to help them increase their yield. So we designed the program in such a way that they can get access to finance by getting a loan from a bank through their farmers union. And we also help them in getting access to technology from Israel. As you know, Israel is well known for various kind of agriculture technologies. So we link them up with different companies that produce these technologies, and they use the money from the loan that they get from the bank to purchase these technologies. And then we provide them technical support on how to use this technology, how they can work on it on the ground. We give them various trainings. We give them day-to-day consultation. There are new agronomy practices that are adopted with each technology. So there's intensive continuous training that's going on. And on top of that, once they produce and they increase their yield, once we help them increase their yield, we also create market linkages so that they can get better pay for the yield that they've produced. So we set up a market linkage with different consumer cooperatives in the capital city in Addis Ababa, and one of the biggest vegetable markets called Fresh Corner. So it's like we're working on the whole value chain. And out of the 5,000, our target is to reach 25% should be women. So zooming in on women, we have a couple of women that are really very strong and have been doing really well since they joined our program. Their lives, I can say, has been transformed. The impact that it has created on the livelihood, the family. As a woman, the income of a woman increases, it's the livelihood of the family improves. Women, mothers, they spend on their children. They try to work to improve the way of living. And we've seen that. We've seen a really physical change in their house and how they raise their family, and how they are trying to create opportunities for their children to get better education. And one such woman is Mabit. Mabit joined us in second season after we launched this project. And she has 6 kids, and she is sending all her kids to school, and especially the 2 girls. When they joined the program, they were in primary school, and in her village, there was no high school. So they couldn't continue their education. The boys are okay because they can walk long distances, and they'll be fine to go and get education in the nearby town. But for the women, she had to find a way to make sure that they stay in the nearby city, so they don't have to take that long route, or they have to walk for at least an hour and a half to the nearest high school, which is closer to their village. So she really wanted them to be safe, because it's not safe for women to walk that far distance early in the morning. They have to be in school by 8. So what she did was the increased income that she got from being part of the 12 program. She rented a house for them in the city, and they now 2 of them are studying in the city, and every weekend they will come back home to her village. So she was really investing in their education. And once one of them graduated last year, towards the end of last year in December, and she unfortunately was not able to pass the national exam and get a very good result to be able to get a free degree education in a university. But since she was interested in cooking, and she wanted to be a chef. So again, Mavit was able to pay for her education in terms of getting cooking classes in the capital city in Addis Ababa, which is a big deal, by the way, for her to be able to afford that and send her here so she can get enrolled into a hotel management course and be able to get a certificate and get the opportunity to be hired in one of the big hotels here in Addis, which would really help her to increase her income. And these are opportunities that are created by engaging in such kind of by involving women and helping them be engaged in such kind of programs and giving them this kind of opportunity through the programs that we design, like TOLF.
Right. It's incredible because, like Leora mentioned, it's the same with this program, is that you start with one program, but then it snowballs into all of these other amazing opportunities that really evolve from it, because it really sets the stage for what women and others, but women can do in these different areas and in these different aspects of life in Ethiopia, and really giving that broader range support and that broader range access. So I think, we have on the screen here a photograph of the woman that you had mentioned, right?
Yes,
and her story. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, that's a Mavit. And her smile says a lot.
Yeah, amazing, beautiful smile.
Yeah, she has also started her own business. She has opened a small restaurant in her village. She's basically the first person to own a restaurant in her village.
It's incredible. That's incredible. So, I mean, so many different ways that projects like this impact the livelihood and the development of so many different new ideas and opportunities, especially with the focal point being women, in our conversation, but also from a woman's perspective, being involved with TOV and then being able to take that approach and that opportunity and apply it into other perspectives as well. So I'm curious to hear from you. We talked a lot about the cooking stove and about TOV, but we also know that we're facing these other challenges in the country. We're dealing with the locust infestations, as I had mentioned earlier, and with the COVID-19 crisis. How are these projects balanced with those different issues that arise as well? And how do you find the ability to address all of them simultaneously when there's so many things that are happening at once, and I'm sure to some extent are intertwined with one another as well?
Yeah, regarding COVID, of course, as it has affected the whole world, it has affected us as well, especially for women that are running small businesses like coffee shops and like tea stalls. So it has affected women, and even in our TOF program, we were continuously looking out whether to see if the locust is going to affect our project sites and tracking it down. To see where it's happening and what precautions can we take, so we were advising, continuously tracking and advising farmers in areas that we work, and also supporting the government through the Ministry of Agriculture and giving them certain suggestions and ideas as to how we can battle this traditionally using the traditional methods, collaborating it with what is modern. So we've been doing that in terms of locusts, and now we are designing a new project to address some of these challenges. The biggest thing is information. So we are closer to the information. We can track quite quickly, and we can disseminate it to the local communities, and that's what we've been doing in consultation with the Ministry of Agriculture, which helps people to prepare. There's a traditional way of how they fight locusts in the past. It seems to be slightly working, and we encourage them to do that a couple of times. We even did it in one of our sites as a precaution, and we were fortunate enough that it didn't come to our area, but that's one thing that we do with regards to locusts. And with COVID as well, when COVID hits, we were able to distribute PPEs to our farmers. They were the first few that had access to that because of the channel that we've already created, different programs that we implement. We were able to reach communities, and we'd be able to distribute PPEs and set up hand washing stations. So it's really important. It's so interconnected. Like each sector is so interconnected, and JDC is always there on the ground to respond, and which is really amazing.
Yeah, I think something that's so unique about this work and unique about Ethiopia and about GRID that I've heard you both talk about so much is that these projects have such long range vision, right? You don't come in and just, respond to something quickly and leave and do it in the way that someone might think is the best way to respond, but it's really so intertwined with what needs to happen on the ground, and seeing the project to fruition and building these relationships and finding ways to connect these different initiatives and these different efforts in order to best help address any of these challenges that might arise, and in any capacity in which people can help one another, and these different aspects of these different projects can be combined to find the best possible the best possible solutions. What do you foresee sorry.
No, I was just going to say that you encapsulate that very well, Sarah. I think that, the fact that that FAGECTA is based in Addis and is working together with the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Health when it comes to COVID, and working within the government, but at the same time working with NGOs. When we talk about the flow of information, it's hard to get information, especially when the internet goes down a lot, and not everybody has smartphones, and so we're looking. So I think that JDC really holds this really important middleman, in a good way, a middleman position, that people can look to us as a trusted source of information, and we can get back to them and really keep that market linkage that FAGECTA was talking about moving forward.
Absolutely. FAGECTA, what do you kind of foresee, as the next chapter in this work? We have a lot of things going on at this current moment in the world, and a lot of different areas of strife and a lot of different challenges, but also a lot of hope and a lot of opportunity. So, coming into this next phase of work, from the things that are ongoing, but also the challenges that are being faced, where do you kind of see the work on the ground moving?
So we're definitely, almost in our final stages of the Imagine More program. That will definitely open many doors for us to really support women and know their needs, and try to design innovative programs that will have a component of technology adoption to bring some kind of improvement in their livelihood and the way they run their businesses, because we'll be giving them various trainings like business development, financial management. This kind of trainings will really help them, because women normally run their businesses not really considering like the risks, and they don't manage their finances very well. So we help them to really focus and look at the big picture, and tell them that they can do better. They can increase their business. They can be able to expand to various areas. This is something that they don't really think about when they start their businesses. They start small and they think they get a certain amount of income and they think that's it. But we push them, we encourage them to dream for more. And so we are really designing that program in such a way that we will be able to reach more women through the ripple effect that it has on the few that we will be working with for the first phase of the project. But on top of that, we are also looking at various programs in the health sector. We're looking at addressing the COVID challenges through adoption of other technologies. There's been a call from the government to really support the health system in terms of making available the ICU beds and ventilators and things like this have come. So we're trying to see how we can address that. We've already done the study. Study has been done by professionals to see where the gaps are there in the health sector in general. But we are looking towards really adoption of some kind of technology, which is coupled with capacity building and training. And also we really try to work with NGOs that are really in line with our vision, which we don't want to create dependency. Our aim is to really create a model that can be, we call it like a business solution to poverty. So it needs to be aligned with the private sector. And the private sector should be the key actor as well in whatever projects that we design. So we have a couple of ideas in that area as well. We are working on setting up the first spine clinic in Ethiopia. We have a clinic, but we want to set it up in such a way that we can do surgeries. Currently, most of our spine patients go abroad for surgery because we don't have enough medical professionals that are specially trained to handle spine medical surgeries that are complex. So we are working towards establishing that center. We have so far trained 4 doctors. We send them to Ghana for specialized training, and we're setting that up. But we're always looking out for new innovative programs that can be sustainable and scalable. And we do this in partnership with the different governments.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Thank you. Thank you for sharing all of that. So Leora, I'll hand it to you as well, because we'd love to hear from your perspective too. What can we do to get involved? What can kind of be our call of action, you know, not being on the ground to be a part of this movement and this growth?
Really, the sky's the limit. There's so many different ways. I would say, first of all, educate yourselves about the issues. Consume information from reputable sources. There's so much information out there. One resource that I can offer is specifically about women and women in the global south. Is a study that JDC actually just recently completed about best practices of designing women's livelihood programming. So education is number one, and learning and reading. Number two is connection. Connect to Ethiopian women in your community if you have them. Really ask them about their lives, and also share about your own. You know, we talked about, I know in Entwine, about the interconnectedness. People work with people. People respond to people. When you ask women, when we started this, you know, the program of Imagine More, we sat with women and asked them, what are your issues? What bothers you? What keeps you up at night? How can we fit into that? So really, I would say just start those conversations, and also share of yourself, that it's not just one way. It really is a two-way conversation. And then the third thing I would say is, if you feel inclined to support causes that match your values, it can be with funding, it can be with volunteering, it can be with awareness raising of your networks. I mean, really just take a cause that speaks to you. There's so many that are out there, and that, you know, we can help you through the JDC community to learn more about it, to get the word out.
Absolutely. This has been such a riveting conversation and a fascinating insight into both of your perspectives on the work that's being done within this incredible country. And I'm so excited to watch as everything grows and unfolds and get involved. And I'm going to hand it back over to Ariel, who's going to give us a little bit more information and take us to some Q&A as well.
First, just thank you to the three of you. Like, it's been really incredible listening to you speak, and it's not only here, let me tell you information. You each have such passion for this work, and it's incredibly moving to hear your firsthand experiences, and to hear the three of you talk about why this work is important to you. So on behalf of myself and hopefully everyone on the call, thank you for giving us your time and for bringing us into your world and inspiring us through your words. We will follow up with a lot of the resources that Leora and Fagekta shared, and ways to get involved that Leora so beautifully put in her call to action. One thing I will note, a bit separate from the Ethiopia topic, but India is top of mind right now. And I'm sure many people are seeing in the news what is happening with COVID-19 in India. JDC has put together a pretty comprehensive response that Leora is leading, and is exhausted from everything going into this, but it's really amazing to see it play out. JDC is working to send ventilators from Israel to Mumbai and Ahmedabad, delivering oxygen and other medical supplies through our partner Sewa, a women's network in India, and also providing telemedicine support to Indian ICU doctors from their peers in the US and Israel. So I mentioned this because, you know, at the beginning of this conversation, we talked about just how much is going on in the world, and how important it is to stay informed. And JDC is responding to many things at once. So I encourage you to learn about what's happening in Ethiopia, get involved with what's happening in India, and support if you would like. And please feel free to be in touch if you have any questions about it or would like to learn a bit more. Okay, so I will close out by sharing a couple of other things we have coming up in terms of our Ethiopia programming the next couple of months. We are hosting an Entwine Nosh on June 7th. We'll be doing a cooking demonstration with a friend of Entwine named BJ, who runs the Sion Cafe in Harlem. And we'll be putting out some other resources, including a country guide, so you can dig deeper into everything Figakta Liora and Sarah spoke about today when it comes to Ethiopia. And I'll just thank the three of you again, thank our audience for joining us, and we'll see you on the next exclusive in a couple of months. Thank you all.
Thanks very much.
Awesome.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye. Thanks, Sarah.